possible conversion of the softball field to an all-purpose field. The soccer field layout you see there is just for size and scale, not that we're proposing a soccer field at this time, but what can fit there. The fence would be removed, the area of the softball infield would be removed, and you'd have a total open lawn area for people to utilize, access all the other facilities as well as the Rancocas Creek. Okay? Now, part of that cost estimate is bringing back the old walking trail that was there. That's totally optional. When I was out there, it hasn't really been well maintained. You can see it in some areas where it's clearly that old red stone, pebble stone, and that again could be considered by the township. The cost for all of that work was estimated at $147,500. Now, the last item up that we would recommend.
One moment.
Go ahead.
The estimate of 147.
Yes.
I don't have a sheet that has the 147. So what are we looking at here? I got 114. This one right here.
Yeah, that's the line. I'm not sure. Yeah, I have extra copies of that.
There's two pages to that.
They're all in order. Apologies.
We're looking at two numbers of 114 and 35.
Yeah, 147. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, the difference is that from the original, you're furnish and install walking track around all-purpose field using 2-inch decorative stone. Went from $43,750 to $72,500.
Yeah, but also the square
Footage
yards
increase.
changed, because that was just a question I had, because I saw the path around the whole thing. I want to know if that included just the walking path around the field, or included refurbishing the entire walking path, plus from the parking lot and around the basketball courts, the whole thing. And that's why I think this number does now include it.
Well, now, the parking lot would be the next page.
Not the parking lot itself, but the paths that lead up.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, so using your diagram there, the original one, which was $43,750, what path did that cover?
Well, did not include this piece.
Okay,
This piece was added on to connect the sidewalk to the bridge, and then maybe just an extension.
so that's the amended 72,005.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, all right. The next area that would be recommended for improvement would be the parking lot and the playground area itself. The parking lot, the handicap parking spaces are not really clearly seen. The whole parking lot could use some restriping and some drainage improvements. The area in between the playgrounds is low, holds water. The playground mulching area itself was unfortunately mostly puddles on the day I was there. The railroad ties that are around the existing playground areas, most likely they're pressure treated, they're aged, they're getting scraped by lawnmowers, they have the sharp edges. The new product line that's out there is a rubberized type of curbing that can be meandered any way you want. It doesn't have to be all right angles. It's safer, there's no sharp edges, and it won't splinter. There's some other items on the fourth estimate that we would also recommend. Some of those would include new benches, new picnic tables, handicap accessible picnic tables. Those total improvements, $164,300. That's if everything as proposed is done. The last cost estimate is simply concept 2, and that's if we convert the roller hockey rink to 2 tennis courts instead of 1. It is extra impervious area. It would require a different layout not just following the old hockey rink, but it could be done. That would be an additional $60,000 over the one tennis court option. So just to summarize, if the priority is obviously the roller hockey rink, which is not being used because there are no boards, is the roller hockey rink, converting it to one tennis court. And since the same paving and striping crews would be out there, adding to that the basketball court, those combined would be around $227,000, $230,000 construction costs.
What I have here is what I was thinking of was that they went through a purpose and around that area.
Okay. Yeah, the track area, this is not final. This is proposed based on our site inspection of what's out there and more or less connecting all the active areas together, along with the bridge to Ironworks Park. So that can all be discussed and worked out with the rec committee or council for final design. So tonight it's improvements to Mill Dam Park, adopting the resolution, authorizing the application, and a dollar amount.
It's, you say the dollar amount, it's a $250,000 grant is what we're going out for. Are we going out for 2 grants of $500,000? What is it that we need?
Well, I think the typical award is $250,000.
Right.
We've done bids before where we can ask for more than $250,000, obviously. The amount would have to be made up. But we have gone out for bids before where we've incorporated base bid items, which are the absolute contract number 1. And should there be enough money in the contract based on the bid, there's add-on items, which you can probably pick contract 2, contract 3, or 1A, 1B. And those would be the items that would still fall within the $250,000 grant amount.
Well, everything that you've shown, that you put a cost estimate to here, if we took 2 pages, any 2 pages, and we added them together, except for the one for $92,000, we're over the $250,000 mark. And specifically, I guess kind of earlier, we were looking at, the one that jumped to 147. That was a little, the track, which was a little less, I guess, 40-some thousand, which was 30 less. If you took that number that we had previously before we grew the size of the track, and then the 135, which did the basketball courts, the rims, and that put us at like 252, which is almost a clean number or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at 280 something. So my question to you is, in your experience, now that we're looking at 280, are we shaving something? Are we asking for more than 250? Or do we ask for every page here and see what we get?
In my experience, I would ask for that 280 number.
Okay.
Get the 250 number. Pick. We're obviously hoping the bids come in very competitive. That's been the nature of the bids lately. So.
And then maybe we can get everything for 250.
Correct.
Or maybe
Correct.
we can shave some of the soft costs and get it for us.
What about the utilization of the leftover funds from the prior 250 grant
About 33,000 left in that.
be used towards the anticipated 250 grant from the county this year?
Well, in our experience, we've done projects in the county where the municipality has come up with other funding, either through previous grants, a combination of grants, or their own money in an effort to expand the project. In some cases, we've done projects where the county open space grant was a relatively small portion of the project, and we've done projects where it's been basically almost entirely with the county open space grant. So it's a policy decision of the council, and we can tailor it any way that you like. That's why I agree with Kurt that if we go in with a little over the 250, if you could provide the additional funding, you could do that. If not, we'll tailor the contract to meet your budget need.
Well, I think that's what we should go with, see over 250 and go that route, because I don't know if I should, here's the decision, but Definitely.
And then it's more of an income to the township too.
Now, wasn't it, at one point, the county was offering 10% for anything that incorporated into along the creek? So maybe would this trail be, some of this, couldn't it be angled towards that, which
I
would
think,
mean
I think the
another-
trail could be, additional tree plantings could be. Um, We can make the application showing that and work that with the county.
I actually haven't seen the county to give that extra 10%, and I kinda gave up, going to the meetings to, to query them about it, but as far as I know, it's, still an option if it ties into their green beltway, so if you factor in 10% of the 250,000, you're looking at another 25K there. So that would bring us into a 275,000, ballpark.
I'll send a letter to the lady at the county house asking if we can use that 33 with this phase too. In addition, so we don't lose it.
Okay.
Hey, Chief, maybe you say we're going to,
What's that?
say we're going to. With the 250 you give us this year, we're gonna use the 33.
Yeah.
Be a little bit more positive.
So we're still looking at, picking from these four though, right, Lou? Or what?
So I gave Steve the two, Lou gave me two. It's for the basketball court at 135, 200, and the second one was for the multi-purpose field at the 114, 4.
Which
Brings
jumps.
us to 250, 165.
Right, but the 114 one is the one that jumped
Right.
to 147, and that's what brought us to the 282.
So we're looking at this one, two.
The 135.2 one, Rich, and the 147.5
Okay.
in the new set of numbers.
Okay, well, we need to move on this, so, what's the process now at this point, George?
I have a resolution prepared. We'll read by title in 2013-110. We'll do another resolutions.
Okay.
Authorize submission of the grant application.
Well, the first thing would be to get consensus of the council on doing these two projects, or submitting these two. So, is that what we wanna do? What's the,
Yes.
we don't do a roll call, we do yes. Jason, you still there?
Yeah.
So you're a yes. Yes, right, for the two projects that were listed? Yes.
Which,
Well, that's the consensus.
which,
This one?
135.2 and
It'll be
147.5.
reconstruction of the basketball courts, and it'll be the multi-purpose field with the extended.
And we get that walk that we just kicked around?
That
that
question,
extended
it
walk.
does.
Right. And that extended walk, some of that walk, we may be able to apply to that piece that we were just talking about. Now, the only question I would have is, Mr. Belton brought up at the last meeting, doing things in an order that you don't have to redo them, and in particular, lighting. So, when this work is being done, is there contingencies put in place when you're doing these fields?
If I can answer that. After we make the grant application and we're successful with the grant application, the next step is to plan and design the project. So during that phase, that's when we would look at them, so that we understand, right now, we're talking about a conceptual plan and budget estimates. We have to then make it a project. That's the time that we'd review all of your design considerations, talk with you, listen to you, and then come up with the plan so that we're not.
Which could include conduit, for the future,
Absolutely.
right? Conduit for the future's use, right?
Absolutely. If you wanted to light it initially, or you wanted to light it in the future, those are the things that we would ask you during the design phase of the project, so that we don't redo things and undo things that we've already edge constructed.
And in the past, we've talked about the soft costs on this particular grant the soft costs, they're covered by this grant, that's correct?
Well, it depends. I mean, you could have them covered by the grant, but if you did that, then it's obviously gonna be less that you're going to be able to do for the project. So if you committed and you were able to obtain a $250,000 allotment, if you wanted to fund the soft cost yourself, it's gonna give you $250,000 of hard costs. If you wanted that built into the grant, then obviously it's gonna come out of your grant allotment, it's just gonna be less construction you're gonna be able to do because.
Well, these prices right here that we're, the cost that we just looked at, and we just, discussed, they do not have the engineering costs in them then. Is
That's
that
correct. The contingencies are basically when you're doing a budget estimate, you come up with a raw construction cost, and you come up with a contingent amount to cover any potential additions that you may have. It's a
Well, I thought
construction
right,
contingency.
the contingencies, I was under the impression that was strictly for cost overruns of this project, but not, put in there to indicate what we would be looking at in soft costs, because there's 17,000, for instance, right off the top here, construction contingencies on the first project. Your engineering costs would be greater than 17,000 for this, wouldn't it, or no?
Well, to be frank with you, we were only told last week to get, I haven't even looked at the engineering yet because we're really working to get before you to understand the problem.
We have to get it before the county, right, exactly. Okay, well, considering the budget that we have, all kinds of questions have to be asked. The fact is, have we in any way budgeted, Steve, for the engineering on these projects?
We do have an engineering cost, not maybe specifically factored in on whatever the amount is, but we do have engineering.
We have some money in there. Okay, all right, sounds good. So, do we need to take a vote now on it, or we'll do this as a resolution? We're at.
I'll read it off what we have.
All right, so we'll add that. Consensus was to go for these two projects here, so we can move forward. All right, thank you, TMA. George, do we have to do a motion to add the resolution to the agenda?
You can just walk it on, it's fine. You don't have to do a motion to add it. You can, you're certainly free to walk it on, put an interaction.
Another one too.
The energy aggregation.
Right, we have that one to go on.
Yeah, you're perfectly free
Just
to
put
do
those,
that.
okay.
If the agenda is published to the extent known ahead of time, so if you add things on there, certainly there's nothing wrong with that.
You guys sticking around, or?
No, we'll
All right.
let you get to your business.
All right.
Thank you very much for getting us involved with the
Thank you
project.
very much for coming out. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next up, we have the approval of minutes. First is the executive session minutes of June 10th. Is there discussion on the minutes? For June 10th, executive session. Okay, no discussion. How about action on those minutes? Action.
Make a motion to approve the executive minutes of June 10th.
I'll second.
Okay, have a roll call, please.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dowd?
Yes. Okay, now we have approval of minutes, council meeting minutes of June 10th. Discussion on the council meeting minutes of June 10th. No. Dwayne?
I have none.
Rich?
None, thank you.
And I had one. At the end, I did not agree or disagree with the open space tax. I did point out, and I went into how I don't agree with the 4 cents tax, open space tax being applied under the assessment ratio and that the other county taxes are applied. I went on a little bit about that. That's the only correction that I have there. I have action on the council meeting minutes of June 10th.
Make motion to approve.
I have a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Belton,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
Mr. DeFalco,
Yes.
Mr. Dow.
Yes. Okay, next up is resolution number 2013-107.
I want to change that, the correction would be 2013-106.
2013-106. Introduction of the 2013 budget. Discussion on this resolution. Action on this resolution.
Introduction only, right?
Yep, introduction only.
Make a motion to introduce the 2013 budget.
Second.
Seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Belton,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah.
Mr. DeFalco,
Yes.
Mr. Dow.
No. Okay, we have public questions on the resolutions. Please state your name and address for the record. Public comment during this portion is limited to questions on below resolutions only. I'm going to open this up to questions on the resolutions only. My right, your left, all the way back on the fourth row. Questions on resolutions? No? Back row? Questions on resolutions. Okay, I'm going to come over to my left, your right. Questions on resolutions, first row.
Good evening, Mahadi Township. I just have one question about resolution 3/2013/05. That's just for the clerk or not for the manager?
Which resolution are we
Uh, 2013/05.
For the clerk, yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify. Thank you.
2013-05 is renewing. Okay. Anyone else in that row? Questions on resolutions? Next row back, row 3. Row 4.
Was that going to give the presentation part of the
No, no,
resolution?
come on up, Jeff.
I'm not sure.
And this is a resolutions only.
Well, was that going to be a resolution on the project? My question on that project, it sounds like a great idea. Jeff Eversmeyer, 203 Broad Street. But what about lighting, engineers' reports, you got waterways, you got DEP, you got all this other stuff, which could run into a lot of money. And then maintaining it. I mean, our public works department's spread out thin now. Who's going to maintain it, clean it up, take care of it, and let it go? So that's my concerns with the project. I think it's a great idea, but hopefully we'll have the manpower to maintain what we have before we obtain. Otherwise, there's no sense doing it if we can't maintain it. So you guys need to look at the personnel you're going to have taking care of that part, because they're not maintenance free. As you know, there's a big cost involved in maintaining and keeping it nice. So it'll be nice, you know. Okay.
Well, at this point, we need to get this to the county to move along, with that deadline being the 28th, which is what, Friday. So, like when I did the Q&A on the soft costs, the maintenance costs, those issues, we do have a revived recreation committee, and a big push towards team play, and you see the efforts that the Little Leagues put in to maintain their fields. So I'm sure there'll be, would be the same for any basketball teams or whatever team play we would have there. But we do have to move it forward. We did miss that 1 year because we didn't spend what we had. So, you know, it is money that's sitting there, and we did need to move forward on that, Jeff. Anyone else in that row? No. All right, the back row, questions on resolutions? No. Over here on the wall, questions and resolutions? No. All right, seeing no more questions regarding resolutions.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
I'd like to add these two.
okay.
I'd like to add Resolution 2013-109. It's a resolution authorizing the purchase of energy generation services for the municipal electric from an online website. Auction was held Friday through EMEX, and the cheapest was Energy Me, is the company entering into an 18-month contract with the savings of $15,000 from PSE&G. That's 2013-109. 2013-110 would authorize a submission of the municipal park development funds for the county of Burlington freeholders. Would authorize the reconstruction of basketball courts and an all-purpose field with the extended walkway, and CME to prepare the application and submit it on behalf of the township. That's 2013-110.
Steve, what was the number for energy again?
13,
109, yeah, and the park is 110.
110, I got
Having added that 2013-109 on the energy after the closing of the public questions and on resolutions, I'm going to open the public questions and resolutions again. If anyone would like to discuss 2013-109, we are going to be voting on accepting a company that will be providing our energy as a third party at a savings of, like Steve just said, a little over $15,000 a year. So if anybody would like to take an opportunity to talk on that, 2 words. My left, your right. Anyone? My right, your left. Anyone? No. Okay. Well, my left, your right. Then I'll close that public questions on that 2013-109 resolution, energy resolution, and we will bring the resolutions back up here to the council. Do we have any discussion on these resolutions tonight? No? Okay. No? Luke? No. Jason, any discussion on these resolutions?
No.
No. Okay. Let's, a consent agenda. So we'll vote on this as a consent agenda, resolutions 2013-103, 104, 105, 107, 108, 109, 110, and we'll throw in the renewal of the taxi owner's license as well. Any questions on the taxi renewals of the licenses?
All the inspections have been completed.
All right, so we'll do all those as a consent agenda. Do I have action on that consent agenda?
Motion to promote it.
Do I have a second? Roll call, please.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
I would like to abstain from 2013-4 and yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes. Okay, we now have the approval of the department head reports.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody else, or if anybody else didn't get it, but I did not get the court report this month of May. I didn't get a copy of it in my packet.
I didn't see one either.
No. definitely didn't see anything in color.
It was in black and white.
Or even in black and white, come on.
Can I see that again?
Got my whole pile here.
I didn't, yeah,
I didn't have.
no, definitely not.
Or we'll remove that one and then we can get it out to you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll have that next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, any questions regarding the remainder of the department head reports?
Yeah, I have one question. Jeffrey Lucas. Who is that?
He's a businessman that we deal with different things for UEZ.
A businessman that,
He does some real estate and some property management things.
is he an employee of the township? Is he a consultant of the township?
No, he's worked with us on a couple projects like odds and some things like that.
For free?
Well, I'm sure when he did odds, I'm sure he got paid somewhere along the line, but the stuff that he's done for us, he hasn't charged us for.
All right, okay. It's nice, huh?
Well, I'm sure his hope is down the road to make a few bucks.
Okay. I just wasn't sure that, it's part of our report, so I had to ask, where it's coming from, so I have to, have an understanding of why it's part of our report, that's all. That's all. I guess, is it possible to meet this person?
Sure it is, Josh. We can arrange that. Cool.
Can do that.
That was, and then there was one signature I didn't quite under the portfolio activity report for the Mount Holly UEZ loan program. That report was completed by,
Didn't hold that up. That's Roebling Bank did that for us.
so that's a signature from somebody at Roebling Bank?
Correct. So I can't say that for him. I know Roebling Bank prepares that for us.
Okay, so this is prepared by Roebling Bank. And I'm glad to see them. I just wanted to know where they came from. That's all I had.
Lou, any questions on the department?
No, no.
Rich?
I have none, thank you.
I have action on the department head reports.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the department head reports excluding the court report of May.
I'll second as read by Mr. Belton.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
No. Approval of the treasurer's report for May 2013. Any questions on the treasurer's report for May 2013? Wayne?
I have none.
Lou? You said none?
No.
Rich?
I have none.
I keep forgetting about Jason. Jason, you have any questions on the treasurer's report?
No.
Sorry about that. Okay, action on the treasurer's report.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
Mr. Belton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes. Next up is old business. What do we have for old business?
I just wanted to, the chief, I don't know, I saw there was a pile of mulch stacked at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm working with Lima just to see, you know, if we can get that fixed, because that project also came in under bid.
Well, I still go back to design. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, we were warned that it was gonna happen. And,
I'll submit you a written report. That's what I brought up when I spoke to Lima about it. You know, it's a design issue, it's not the contractor's issue. He did what was laid out in the plans.
right, and I mean, there was a discussion about the mulch as well, whether it was the right type, and, you know, maybe the mulch that, you know, was brought up may have hung in there a little bit better and not washed out as badly as it did. But, you know, our,
Yeah, we scraped it back up today.
yeah, I saw it was a nice pile. It's just at the bottom of the mountain instead of on it. But yeah, I don't want to pay for it, and I don't think we should use any of the funds that were left over. If it's a design issue,
You'll have something submitted this week. I was hoping to hear by Friday, so I could have something today, and it just didn't work out that way Friday.
I think we all have to pay for our mistakes. At least most of us do. So if they made a mistake, they should pay for it, not us. Especially ones that you're warned by a layperson. That's all I had for old business. I was just curious where we were with that.
Rich?
I have none.
Jason, old business?
I just have one question for George.
Okay, go ahead, he can hear you.
Okay, referring to last meeting about the manager position, what's the law about the police chief staying in the manager, as Mr. Dow said that he would like to have done at the last meeting?
I'm not aware that there's any prohibition against it, but I haven't specifically reviewed that. I'm not, what do you mean the law of it?
Well, I mean, the law is there's an issue with him holding your position for a certain amount of time.
I'm not aware that there's any specific prohibition about a particular amount of time. I mean, I'm not sure if the chief knows it, but I know that the township has done that, and townships have done that in the past. So there's not a specific prohibition as to it that I'm aware of.
Is that your answer?
But I didn't review that specifically, but.
I mean,
Yes, that's my question. I mean, I just wanted to know if there was,
you mean longer than we had a clerk doing it?
No. Dwayne, this is Jason talking to George right now.
Yeah.
So is that resolved? Is that, did you hear the answer, or did you have another question for George, Jason?
it's just that the mayor answered my question.
Okay.
Very well. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, old business from the last meeting. You have something you want to add?
Yeah, just something we just talked about, the old business, like earlier in the meeting. With the rec grant, I just have a.
Sure, go ahead. This is the, easy.
One thing that I forgot to mention on the rec grant, I know CME's gone right now, but I want to get banner poles, an additional set of banner poles. And I know that on the quotes, I think it says that like $3,000 or whatever it was for 2 poles. I assume it's a set of 1 extra banner pole.
Yeah, it's a set.
Can we just make sure that we communicate with Greg and CME to include that? Because that was part of the overall playground stuff.
Right.
I want to make sure that gets added.
That we have to,
What is a banner pole?
It's the 2 things that go on the side of the street, the heck, the whole banner.
like we have on High Street, those big giant things in front of the,
Yeah, where would they go?
That would go on the grass area between the street and the sidewalk.
no, it means what street?
High Street,
We,
an additional one on High Street.
okay.
Same way as you drive through Morristown, there's 3 of them.
Right.
We have another one. We have a list of people who want to put banners up there, but we have 1 banner pole.
So where are you thinking, up towards the close to the hill?
Probably more up,
Okay.
up the hill, like more, maybe where the school and library is, maybe further up, there's a lot of tree coverage over there, so you wanna get somewhere people can see it.
Those weren't cheap.
But the rest of the county paid for
The
those.
county paid for those.
Their estimate, what they said banner poles,
I don't think they were thinking banner poles on
I
High
didn't think
Street.
they were thinking those either.
I think what they were thinking, that's why I asked you what you
I
thought
thought they were
banner
talking-
poles were for $3,000. I know
I
that
thought they
they're
were
not.
talking about
I
ones for
believe
the
it was
lamp
like
posts.
$3,000 a pole.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you they were more than that. The footing alone was probably
They were looking
$3,000.
into it, but that's what I wanted to make sure that we guys check this for the cost was on that.
So, you okay with it?
Say anything you want.
Yeah.
So,
We'll get back with us.
We're just putting it, yeah, we're putting it forward to the county anyhow, so.
Yeah.
You right?
We're
You
asking
okay
for
with that?
$282,000.
Jason, are you okay with the banner poles being added to those two proposals that we approved for the recreation grant?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so consensus. So Steve, you'll put that on with the other two? All I had, was from the, keep it quick tonight. From the last meeting, there was a feral cat issue brought up by Mr. Potter, Steve. Did we refer that across?
I did, I'll follow up on this. We'll have it.
And Carolyn had brought up the Acme stinking, the compost.
We went up there the next day, I called, has it gotten any better? Carol,
And flooding.
still the same?
Well, I mean, this week, last week really wasn't as hot like it's gonna be this
Okay.
week. That's when it seems to permeate, when it's very hot out.
Okay. And if there was a flooding issue that she brought up.
Yeah, I've reached out to the county, they're researching why, because it actually starts out on High Street, goes to the West Hampton House, it's backing up somewhere in their catch basins there, right along High Street by, between like Smith and Holly.
Okay. That's all I had for old business. Let's check. Okay, we have new business. Open it up to new business.
I have nothing tonight.
Lou?
Yeah.
Jason?
No.
Rich?
Just what's on the agenda discussing, putting a question on the ballot to have the residents of the township choose whether to keep a nonpartisan council manager from the government or change it to a partisan council manager from the government.
What would be, there was a, request for you to look into?
Yeah, basically you would introduce an ordinance which would essentially create a ballot question that the residents would decide, and the ordinance would direct the clerk to publish the ordinance. The council has the power to do that. I'm sorry, direct the clerk to publish the ballot question, that is. And at that point in time, the question would be formulated. The question would indicate something to the effect of, should the Mount Holly Township election held in November be switched from the nonpartisan form of government to partisan form of government with traditional primaries. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but it would indicate along the lines of that. What the council did in the past was you already switched it from the May to November. Other towns have done it all at once, and I'm not sure if any other town has done it in 2 steps, or at least not off the top that I can find. I think Delran switched from May nonpartisan to November partisan. Other towns have done it a little differently. But basically, you would pass the ordinance, and it would all it would do, it would go to the voters, and once the clerk approved it, and it would go to the voters this fall, at which time they would decide whether or not, beginning in 2014, you would employ the traditional partisan party form of politics. There would be the primary where the traditional parties, any party could submit for primary petitions, which would be due by that deadline. And then on the day of the primary itself, any of the parties, the parties would decide, and any independent ballots would also be, or petitions would be submitted that day. see what, and then, the winners of the primaries would square off in the general election along with any independent candidates. But the process would be the ordinance, which you would do. You can, I can certainly prepare an ordinance, and upon that it would go over to the clerk. Now there is a little bit of a time frame on that, and I don't have this in front of me, but I believe you're going to need to get it to the clerk by roughly September 1st, perhaps a week later or so, for sufficient time to allow that. So you're going to, looking at those deadlines, so you're going to want to move it relatively quickly if you're going to do that by ordinance.
Okay. So this is open for discussion then now.
Yes.
The pros and the cons, Rich, since it's something you're introducing as a suggestion, can you give me, I guess, the reason why you think that's a better idea for Mount Holly? Seeing as how we have, difficult participation already, getting folks to run, we're adding another step to having to run by creating a primary. I think locks more people out than it does include some. So why do you think it's an advantage to be, to have the election party versus non-partisan?
Honestly, Dwayne, I think that, like I told you last meeting, I think that the election is already very partisan, based on just the
Forget what
Let me
you
answer your
think.
question. Let me answer your question. Yes, why I think, this is why I think. Two, you talk about lack of participation. With this being a partisan form of government, we will wind up now getting more buy-on for the different parties that are out there. They may not want to get involved in a nonpartisan election because it's just, the participation is not going to be there. So they'll wind up, putting up their Republican candidates, their Democrat candidates, as well as any independent groups that are out there that may want to go and run when it, actually has the ability to go on a primary and then vote on who you want in the primary and then go on to a general.
Well, very contradictory statement. You just said we have an already partisan, it's already a partisan election. So if it's already there.
I say that in the state that we moved their election from May to November on a partisan election date.
A date, not, so you're saying the last election wasn't really partisan, it was just on a partisan date?
Correct.
Okay, then I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying that we're already a partisan election.
No, we're not partisan a partisan date. And that was one of my concerns initially moving to November, being the fact that we're running on a partisan election date the rest of the country is running on, whether it's governor, it's a presidential election, what's going on. You're going to have a mass majority of people coming out looking to vote Republican, Democrat, Independent based on what they're going to do. And then that may sway particular votes, outcomes of a nonpartisan election if you don't have that affiliation.
Does it add a cost to the township if we
That was going to be a
change?
question. Is there a cost? What happens to independents that want to run?
I don't believe it adds any cost. I mean, the townships, the added cost you've already eliminated when you eliminated the May election, because there's already the cost of the primary that's out there, which you're going to be spending that money anyway. There's already the cost of the general.
Wait a second. What do you mean we would be spending that money anyhow? One of the reasons why we moved the election to November, which was something that, I campaigned on, was to save the money of the election, and it varied from 14,000 to higher. So we saved the money of having that May election by moving it to November.
So
now the primary cost, which is now back in June primary.
You already have that cost. That's not adding cost. There's already a primary that the township has to. You have a primary every year. You might not have a local primary, but you have the other primaries that's where the cost is. You eliminated the cost because everybody in the world has to have a general. Everybody in New Jersey has to have a general. Everybody has to have a primary. You eliminated the May election, which you didn't have to have. You still have the other two, so you're not adding any cost.
What other two? The primary you're referring to is the other two now.
Yes.
And you're saying that the cost for the primary is nothing more for the township to be part of that, not $1 more for the township to be part of that than it is for just a standard primary.
I can't. I mean,
we need to know that specifically.
Well, I can't. I don't think. I mean, I can't fathom a cost. I mean, that's the whole purpose in doing it the other way would be to do that, so how are you gonna add cost? I mean, the only thing the clerk is gonna do is accept petitions for the primary, there's no other, I mean, I've never heard of any cost for it, that was the purpose of that.
Isn't like we're renting voting machines to do a
Yeah,
special?
you already have the cost to use
Guys,
it.
this is government. And every time you turn around, you move that paper from that side of the table to the other, it costs money.
The
You
cost,
know it.
the cost that you had was having the extra election. I mean, there already is a primary election in New Jersey. Mount Holly is a municipality. I mean, you happen to be the nonpartisan, not everybody, very few municipalities have a May election. You've eliminated that cost already, just like they talk about eliminating, you know, the school board elections, the special date for that, and they've discussed having other dates change. It's to save costs and to keep it uniform, to keep it with a June primary and a November general.
There was a discussion on going to partisan and from nonpartisan when we discussed moving the election, and there wasn't anybody that came to any of the meetings that pushed for a change to partisan government at that point. Not one. As far as council goes, the council at the time, Mr. Gibson brought it up once, and it went down as fast as he brought it up. Because the original pushback for moving the election from May to November was that we would lose the local flavor, I believe is what Tiswell at the time had termed it. But, the fact is that you lost that, we would lose that little bit of
Autonomy.
yeah, and now going back to, now turning it into a, primary partisan government, it just brings that whole piece back. But, that's my part of the discussion. Any further discussion on it?
I'd like to make a motion to
Well,
drop this,
we haven't gotten to that point yet, Jason. I'll say, is there any action on it in a minute?
but
So just that Lou hasn't had a chance if he wants to speak. Lou, did you want to say something on it?
I would just like to see everyone get a chance to have the opportunity to do whatever citizens do.
You do know that this makes it more difficult for that to happen, right, Mr. Brown?
Well, I think what it helps.
You're just saying you want everyone to have an opportunity to weigh in on this question? Is that what?
Yes.
After putting it in our contract, and you would sign it. Petitions too.
Any further comments from council?
No further comments.
No?
If the county doesn't change the way we are put in during the general election anyway, it really doesn't matter. I mean, if we go through what we just went through the last election, and, the luck of the draw on the third floor is where you're lined up, it probably doesn't matter anyway. That's, so, other than us being unaffiliated, so how does it happen? What happens with unaffiliated? Because we're no longer called independent. I'm a registered unaffiliated. I'm not registered independent. So what happens with unaffiliated in a primary? So
You're not in a primary, if someone wished to run as an independent candidate, which is what they would be, they could come up, they could run as, you could have Green Party participation, you could have Conservative Party, you could have there's some.
So you're saying I don't have to run
out.
in a primary?
Correct. You would submit a petition which would be due no later than the day of the, as it stands right now, that the law is, the petitions for independence are due the day of the actual primary. So as long as they're submitted by that date, that name would be on the ballot as well. So you would have, anybody, there's a Democrat and a Republican primary election for which as many people as want could submit. Out of those two, Only 2 will come out, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican candidate for each spot. And then as many independents as still wish can absolutely run. I mean, that happens all the time. Happens, many elections. 2 years ago in Cinnaminson, there were 2 separate slates of independents who ran that particular year. So there were 4 slates of candidates, I believe, on the November ballot. So that's what would happen.
I'd like to see the rules that would apply to the council under the partisan government. We went back and forth a little bit, and we had a little bit of disagreement there. So I'd like clarification on what the caucusing rules would be, so that these guys would know, especially for Mr. Belton, who as an independent or whatever they have to call themselves now, unaffiliated, where he would fall under the federal guidelines. I believe he can caucus with whoever he chooses, or if they let him in.
No, it's an Open Public Meetings Act question is the way it falls down for caucusing purposes. Certainly, many items do get caucus, but you're not going to typically sit there. Open Public Meetings Act rules apply still. Just like anything else, people run into each other inadvertently. There's no violation. There is permitted to caucus on on certain issues. That's the way it works. And I would indicate that, typically speaking, you are correct. The only caucusing that typically goes on in local government in New Jersey, it's not to say that it cannot, would be caucusing at the end of the year over different appointed positions. That's traditionally where caucusing would occur.
So explain to the residents, explain what the caucusing is, to those that don't know.
I mean, in certain, caucusing is just that. It's just like the Republicans and Democrats do down in Congress. They caucus. They meet with their independent, with their groups, with their political party groups.
And they can do that even when they have the majority. So if you had, you have 3 or 4, then basically, they're going to be making the decision without the other different party members or independent even being in the same room to discuss those items.
Oh, hell, I'm going to do that now. What's the difference?
Well, I just want to keep it, I just want clarification for myself as well as, because we disagreed last time, about what I was told in the past.
Caucusing is, I'm just telling you, it doesn't happen that often. I mean, you don't see it occur that much. I mean, you're right. There's a caucus in most municipalities. Whether the Republicans or Democrat, the majority controlling, will caucus to review certain reorganization things, and that's really about it in New Jersey that I see. It's not to say it can't happen otherwise, but certainly if it were to happen, you got to review the Open Public Meetings Act. That's the whole purpose of that.
Okay. Any further discussion? No. Closing into discussion. Jason.
Yeah.
Now's the time.
I like to make a motion to approve this ordinance on title only.
I think now what you would correct him if I'm wrong. Aren't we now having a discussion to go forward with you writing an ordinance? Isn't that?
Well, you can do it, but the council would certainly be permitted to introduce it by title, because you'd have the opportunity to read it and have it published before it were voted upon. But you can certainly walk it on by title, and the title would be an ordinance to submit an ordinance to change the form of election from nonpartisan to partisan, and submit it to the voters this fall. To submit to the voters for a ballot question this fall.
So
I'll rephrase it a little better, but the point of it would be you can certainly introduce it and walk it on by title tonight. It would need to be published in accordance with all our publications, just like any other ordinance.
For a first reading.
No.
This is the first reading. This would be the first reading. No notification of paper at all. We're just going with the first reading.
There's no notification required for a first reading. There's notification for the second. That's the whole point of publication and notification. You're introducing it by title only.
Have you reviewed the general procedures for conducting council business that we adopted?
I'm not, I don't have a copy of general procedures. It's not provided to me. What I'm referring to is state law and the Title 40 and 48.
I'll make a motion to add this as an ordinance by title only. Adding a
That's what
question
you
on the
already
ballot,
did.
giving voters an option to switch to a partisan form of government, council manager, and having people choose between that and or a non-partisan form of council manager form of government.
And Jason already has a motion.
It was a clarification, I was clarifying it.
Can we back up?
Caught me off guard, I think, and if you could read, I'm
Yeah,
not,
it caught me off guard too.
I was trying to think off the top of my head as to way to read it by title. I think you read it properly. I would just add a couple words. I think whatever you said had, it was better phrased than the way I phrased it. But it would be an ordinance. Mr. Falco had a good phrase, and I couldn't repeat it. But the question that I would add that it would be submitted to the county clerk as a referendum.
Could you reread that? Maybe I didn't understand it. Can you reread that, Rich?
I'm first writing what he wrote down.
Well, I'm just reading, agendas will be closed for regular Monday business meetings. The council to go to business on Wednesday prior to scheduled council meeting. No items will be added to the agenda after that date except in cases of emergent nature. And this doesn't fall into anything that would be under emergent nature. And we did adopt these procedures. So.
I'm not familiar with when they were adopted. Was that this year?
They were adopted last year. All I'm asking for is, how about this vote be on you coming forward or drafting the ordinance, and we go through the normal procedure of a first reading that's advertised, and then a second reading. You have until September anyhow. Where's the?
Just so you're clear, there's no need for it to be, the first reading can be by title. You did that in the beginning of the year, and that's frequently done. It is, as long as the second reading is advertised and the time frames are set forth, and you have a copy of it published and everything is handled properly, there's nothing, nothing wrong at all with reading an ordinance, by title. The only thing I would point out is the time frame. You're looking at basically 2 months. You have to get the ordinance adopted, and I would get that. So you might want to consider that. You are under a relatively tight time frame because if the council wishes to consider it. That's all.
Mr. Dow,
Yes, I'm listening, Jason.
I'd like to rescind my motion and second Mr. Falco's motion.
I'd like Mr. DeFalco to repeat his motion.
I will repeat it now. The motion is to add by title only an ordinance adding a question on the ballot, giving voters an option to switch to a partisan council manager form of government from a non-partisan council manager form of government to be submitted to the county clerk for review.
When you say council manager, what does that
Manager
mean?
council.
It's the form of government that we're in.
Okay. So the manager doesn't now have.
No, it has nothing to do with it. It's just that under the form of government. It's submitted for the county clerk for review and publication on this November's ballot, so it would be. And I think that's sufficient. And since it's by title, I'll have it drafted whenever you prefer. Anyone can make comments before you take any final, vote on it.
Well, once again, I'm going to go back to our general procedures for conducting council meetings, council business, and you're the solicitor, so does this document have any weight to it at all?
I haven't even seen
What
it.
is your position?
I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't know when it was not passed this year, so I'm not familiar with it. I don't think I've ever been provided, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not familiar with it. But generally speaking, in terms of this, the council in the past followed Robert's rules. I'm aware of that. This would follow Robert's rules, and there's nothing wrong with walking on. You added 2 things tonight. I know there's the grant certainly is an emergent matter, and the other issue was the energy savings. I'm not sure that was emergent, that needed to be done right away, but it was added to the agenda.
Well,
There's nothing wrong.
It did need to be done.
Right. but there's nothing wrong with.
Both of those were, one's for a budget that's being introduced, and, you know, so I would argue that both of those items tonight were emergent. This one, under your own words.
Is there an ordinance? There's no ordinance in place in Mount Holly that indicates that the council agreed to follow this, correct? This is not done by ordinance, correct?
This was done, I believe it was by resolution, I'm not sure.
Then it would,
You know?
then it was done in calendar year 2012?
We don't even have a date on it. It was done after I nominated somebody and they wanted to stop that going forward, so I'd have to find out, you know, we have to.
It
look and
wasn't in
see what year
2013, you know, then the resolutions, you know, it's a new council, you can adopt your own rules, you know, in terms of that if you wish to do so. But I would indicate now that it doesn't, you don't have to necessarily follow it. I think it's a good idea to get some general procedures in place, how you wish to do it among the 5 of you, but as long as you're following, you know, the state laws and your ordinances that have been passed, you're fine.
Okay, that's the legal opinion. So there is a first, there's a motion, is there a second to Mr. DeFalco's motion? And Jones seconded it. Roll call.
Mr. Belton?
Blank, no.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. DeFalco?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
No.
Judge, you'll draft up a,
I'll get it to you, and if anybody has
we can
comments or
review
questions
it
ahead of time, get it to me
walk through
quick
it.
so that you can address them before you vote on any final adoption on it.
Any other new business?
You don't have to waste that paper on me, so you can just send it to Roseberry. Maybe Mr. Dow would like to take a look at it.
Always, always. Any other new business? Okay, end of the new business. Matters to be presented by the public. Please state your name and address for the record. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer and not individual council members. If any member of the public has a matter to be presented that pertains to housing and or police matters, please see Chief Martin. Okay, so now I'm going to open this up to the public. My right, your left. Door number 4. Rear, back row. Nope. Okay. My right, actually my left, your right. Row number 1.
Good evening, my head council. As actually I submitted 2 questions for your for the council people and the manager and the staff. Wonder if I could get a response to my question.
2 questions or 1 question?
I think it was 1 or 2. No, the second question about the polishing, it's gonna fail.
What's this?
The polishing question, it's gonna fail.
No.
The 2 questions I submitted.
he has the smoking ban and he has the partisan question.
Okay.
The polishing is gonna fail like last year. That's my opinion, I mean.
Alright.
And actually the first question, everyone's opinion about it.
Well, it was voted to discontinue the work sessions for the summer months of July and August. I voted against discontinuing them, so.
Is there any way to amend it?
I'm in favor in having another meeting, obviously. I actually will have a work session of some sort, no matter what, next Monday. Either like a town hall type of thing where, you know, the folks can just come in and we can just talk about it. So, and that's what I intend to do next Monday, is have a town hall right here in the other room. And we can discuss the smoking ban, we can discuss the solar ordinance, we can discuss whatever. So, I don't know if the rest of the council want to, you know, respond. I'll open it to response on this question. Any other council members want to respond to Lewis's question?
Well, I didn't vote to discontinue them either, so I had planned on being here Monday.
Okay.
So you'd have to ask those that said no.
For the second question is, like I said, I would like to see that in 2015 to polishing we're getting 1 extra year for the people to make the mind up. I mean, the people of Mount to make the mind up. That's my opinion.
Well, this will go to a vote, Louis. So it'll go to a vote in November, and then it would be in effect the following year.
Yeah, the voters would have to decide in the referendum as to whether or not they wish to go partisan.
My second question about that is, what's the limit? What's the limit on the question you have to for the ballot? How many question a referendum can you put in November 5th?
Ballot question.
It could be 2, 3, right?
Yeah, this would only end up being one question.
What if a resident of Mount High submit a referendum question before there's nonpartisan? How that works?
You'd have to look that up, right?
Yeah, you
can't
have
provide
to
advice on
look up the numbers that you would need to get a question put on the ballot. There's formulas, you have to look that up.
No, I'm
Just
not
the
looking at
same
it as
as
a party and plus 125. My question is someone submitted already the proper signature, everything to November 5th? You got the nonpartisan question. It should be one question or two.
Well, apparently you can have.
But one question would decide this issue. You can have questions about other types of ballot questions if you want it on there. But I would advise this body, and I certainly can't provide independent legal advice to you as to a certain ballot question that you want. That would be prohibited. So you can certainly look it up and.
Had the Mahadi complete their vacant property list for every.
Yes.
Steve, which vacant property?
Township.
You talking about businesses or abandoned homes?
Like properties, like abandoned properties. You have like lots, like assigned lots,
Okay, we have ones we're compiling through code enforcement that we take care of, and ones that are abandoned. We're still compiling the list and gathering the bank data and who owns it and everything like that. It's it's an extensive process to do.
You think it will be in the next couple of months or?
I think it'll be the next couple of weeks.
Oh, next couple. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. My second question is.
Second.
My second comment. I want to thank Abby for this. Abby, the girl who worked in the special election office of Burlington County, for reminding me an open spot for the Mount High School board district. Well, I'll say that. Yeah, I will not give up that position. Second, what I think final one is. Yeah, Chief Martin doing a great job as a township manager.
Thanks, Louis.
And I appreciate for his dual duties. I mean, as a police, chief, and as a township, I appreciate his dedication.
Thanks, Louis. Appreciate it.
The last one is I want to thank Mayor Richard Dow, Deputy Mayor in the township, for coming to meetings. And and thank you for speaking up. I appreciate it. The people, appreciate it for coming. And I think anyone like to have a meetings, I'll be posting this meeting on Facebook and YouTube videos before midnight tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you, Louis.
Hey, anyone else in that row? There you go.
David Van Warwick Place, Mount Holly. I had no intention of coming up here at all this evening until about the last 10 minutes of this meeting. I found it kind of comical, to tell you the truth. Are those rules or whatever you have set up there, are they available for the public? I mean, my issue here is not with the partisan election. What I think about that's not important here. But you guys came up with a set of rules here. Tonight you violated your own rules. I know there's state laws, there's Robert's Rules of Order that says there's certain ways that things have to be conducted. Well, you went a step beyond at some point and adopted these rules, and you violated them tonight. And what you did pretty much with the advice of your counsel here is said, let's change the rules as we go along. How often are we going to do this? Mount Holly has suffered or has dealt with lawsuits where rules have been made up as a result of lawsuits that have been brought against the township. concerning an election.
That piece of paper.
This piece of paper. This was as a result of a lawsuit that was brought against Mount Holly at some point because you guys made up rules as you went along. So then you come up with a set of rules and you just throw them away. Well, we're not going to abide by the rules. We're going to make up new rules. So where does it stop? Where does it stop? You guys, I mean, it's if you have a set of rules, you abide by the set of rules. If you don't, then don't make up the rules. That's just, I don't know. It's comical. It's a joke. You guys, it's a joke. It's a shame.
Thanks, David. That's kind of why I brought it up.
Can I just clarify what I said earlier, just in terms of that response? This body could adopt a set of rules that would be codified in an ordinance, which you could do. In the past, my understanding is, you know, they've always followed Robert's rules, and you know, by doing, that was what I understood. Either way, that's not codified in your code, and there was a former council that voted on that, not the current council, and that's why, you know, that's generally the answer to that. But certainly, had that been in the ordinance, that's a different opinion.
The majority of this current council right here voted on these rules.
It's not the same council. We have two different members.
I'm the only one that voted against these rules.
But you can't keep changing rules. That's what I'm saying. You can't keep, if the council last year, okay, so you vote on something this year, and then next year you're going to change the rules again because it's a couple different council members? It's crazy. You can't make rules up and then just arbitrarily change them. It's just not right.
Thanks, David.
I'm
Next
sorry.
row, the third row. Now, fourth row, left.
Jeff Eversmeyer, 203 Broad Street, Mount Holly. As you like these rules thing, if you didn't like the rules, why didn't you change them when you came to council? When you guys came on board, why didn't you change the rules and make your own rules? As far as the rules go, all of a sudden tonight you guys want to change the rules. I don't think that's right. Next question I have is, my pet peeve for 30 years has been code enforcement and lack of it, or selective code enforcement, in my opinion, in this township. I've been asked many times to join the lawsuit against the township of Mount Holly for selective code enforcement. My problem in Mount Holly today, I don't know whether you guys live in Mount Holly, you guys drive around Mount Holly. Have you looked at Mount Holly? Down on King Street where I live, there's nothing around my building that looks good. None of King Street looks good. I've got 2 citations, or not citations, recommendations to cut brush or do whatever in Mount Holly on my property.
Jeff, anytime you want to come in and look at what our code enforcement's doing, feel free to. Because I can tell you now that code enforcement's being done more fairly than it's ever been.
I'm not.
Okay, and we can't force people when it's tied up in court, and we write tickets, and you won't believe the grief we get from people about taking care of their property. So, and I agree with you, I ride around and I come in with a list. What about this place? What about this? And they go, we got here, they're on this day, we're talking
Well,
about this.
I don't, you know, the last one I got was something that isn't even has nothing to do with me. It was along the creek, which is township issue. I mean, I'm not allowed to do anything with the embankments along the creek in my store. That's totally county work.
No, we're doing some things down there because the state commit, or the feds come in and did an inspection, and
Yeah, all the trees along that
if we
embankment.
don't clean that out and something happens there, they won't cover us.
But that was my citation was the embankment, which
Well,
I'm
you
not
didn't
allowed
get a
to do.
you didn't get a
Well, it was a
citation.
warning, but it's not something I have to do anyway.
Well, what they're trying to do is get anybody has anything on their property that's overgrown and trim it back so we can get in. Public Works has been down there 3 days already.
Yeah, and I understand that, but they've been doing that for 20 years. The township or the county has to come in and clean that up. It's their responsibility.
Well, the problem is it hasn't been done in a long time. That's why.
Well, it's been about 3 years, and that's why it's gotten crazy. And I'm not, my problem with the whole situation, and it's not you, I think everything I brought to him has been fixed, which was unheard of in this township until he came on board. I mean, it's unheard of. And I'm not knocking what you're doing. My problem is, with this whole situation, is we have all these ordinances, all these laws to do. And I used to, that little triangle lot, I was mowing it. Well, I stopped because I got issued because I was out of town, my grass was a little long, that I needed to mow my lawn. Well, that lot over there hasn't been mowed yet.
Well, I just corrected that because somebody wanted to argue with the guy who owned it until I showed him the tax map.
You guys don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And those-
We cleaned it up in the winter and I went by there.
Yeah, well, I was mowing it and then I got insulted that I'm mowing it and then my grass is a little long, so I get a letter that I need to clean up my lot because it doesn't look good. Well, I'm cleaning up lots that aren't my lot too. And that's upsetting to me. I mean, to say the least, and that building, the Lakes Appliance with all the broken windows out and the branches are 20, 30 foot tall. Nothing's been done to that property in 3 years. So we've got all these properties with issues, and I feel like, why should I do anything? The county's got problems with their property. It's been 5 years, that fence has been knocked down for 5 years on their property right next to my property. So how come the county doesn't have to do anything? How come the township doesn't have to do anything? You know, why do I have to bring it to the attention of the township to get things done? There's code enforcement officials that do their job, and Steve's got one hell of a job, dude, because there's been so neglect for 10 years in this township where nobody was doing their job. And now he's trying to correct all these problems going through the township. Well, you guys need to be active too, because the residents, I get complaints all the time from residents with problems with properties, and they've given up. There's nobody in this township, and sitting in this audience right now complaining about the town. Everywhere I go to, parties, anywhere I go to, people complain about how bad the town looks, and they're ready to move. The good people want to move. I can't even, I have a couple houses I'm trying to rent that I've been trying to rent. I just showed the pink house. You think anybody live down there that's good? The way it looks all the way around there? You got Buzz's Tavern with the roof ripped off and weeds up 2 foot tall, and yeah, it's in foreclosure and all that. What's the township gonna do about it? Maybe there's nothing you guys can do about it. But there's nobody, everybody comes and complains, and maybe we need 100 people here every week complaining to you guys about code enforcement so something gets done. You know, we're worried about partisan, nonpartisan. I don't hear anything about the way the town looks.
Jeff,
I'm worn out.
We're a pretty active council, all right, and I can tell you that we are constantly fielding complaints. Got a letter right here that I'll talk to Steve about as soon as the meeting's over. I field them on Facebook.
What bothers me is the residents don't feel they can get anywhere because they're not even here.
I understand what you're saying, and
they don't feel they're going to get anywhere.
But there's a huge backload of issues that you just basically agreed that there's these backload of issues that Steve has been trying to catch up on, and that we're trying to basically
I told people there's a new. I told him Steve's in charge. He gets the job done. I've complained to him it's gotten done. Things
but now we also
issues.
now have the vacant property ordinance, which is going to move us forward on all those the buzzes. If that's vacant, then that'll fall under that ordinance there. A neighbor of yours or of your business on Rancocas Road just pointed out another one that's vacant. I forwarded it over to Steve. They're moving on.
I've been arguing with the county with the runoff on my property for 5 years. They had it approved to put a berm there and fix the fences standing up 20 foot in the air.
Well, now the county is a whole nother issue.
I know, but I can't even get that done. 5 years I've been arguing with the county.
Took me that much to move a bus stop, from where it was to where it says bus stop. In front of.
I had two good people, to be honest, I had two good people looking at the house, really good military people. As soon as they went down Garden Street, called them and says, no, I really can't do it. I had two people looking at the pink house, nobody wants to live there. You kidding me? They don't even, I want my daughters hanging around there. I don't want even near there. So this is what's happening. I own properties here. I try to rent properties. And when they drive around, most good people drive around the neighborhood and see what they see. And if they don't like what they see, they go live somewhere else. And this is where we're at. In my opinion, we're at a crossroads in Mount Holly. And you guys are in council for so long. And either we clean it up and straighten it up and enforce our ordinances, or all the nice houses are going to go up for sale, and we're going to have another Camden or Westchester, wherever you want to say it is. And then you guys are going to be responsible for part of it because you're on the council.
Well, there's a lot of issues that we're trying to take care of all at the same time, and there are priorities to some of these issues. I'd direct you to the monthly police report, and as far as law enforcement goes, from last year to this year, the police department has been cutting down from 133 to 108 of serious crimes from last year to this year.
But it doesn't look safe. That's my problem. I don't care how safe our town is. It has to look safe.
But but
We are.
all these things,
Well, if you want me to rally people to have them come to the council meeting, I'll have 100 people here every meeting, and they'll be chewing you out about they're worried about their stake in Mount Holly, where they live, that they're not gonna be able to sell their home and get out of town. Because that's where it is. I was at a couple functions in the last 2 weeks, and everybody's fear is that they've got properties that are mismanaged in their neighborhoods, they look like hell, and they drive down the street, and they're even afraid. So where are they gonna go?
well, that's what I just said.
They email me on property, I'll update them on where we're at.
And we have the new website source of being able to,
Well,
look at.
people want to, because of the old
Tracking
regime,
number.
because of the old regime, people want to go through me and have me send it to you for fear of retaliation or bullshit.
There's no retaliation.
I know
Bullshit here,
that,
Jeff.
I know it. Try to convince people, I've been there, where I've had written things up, and then I get 10 citations in the mail the next day.
Me too.
So I've been there. So you don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
I told them it's different. They're skeptical.
Yeah, I know code enforcement's working, I still get, brush on sidewalk.
And they, are, at the same time, they're also reasonable when, if you contact them, you don't get the hammer that you were getting under past regimes, where that target that you were talking about, you didn't just receive the citation, you got it jammed on you, and you had to come into court,
Well, I think it's totally different, but we need to address this. I think we're in a crossroads. If in the next 4 to 6 months the town doesn't.
Well, crime-wise, we are too, Jeff.
I think that's great. But if you can't ride down the streets and get into town somehow, some way, and feel good about the way the houses are.
Well, how about the roads themselves, right? The potholes, right?
Oh my God, well, that's another issue.
Right.
I can't even go there, but I'm just talking about,
We've got infrastructure,
your
we
main
have
streets in
crime,
Mount Holly,
and we have code enforcement.
you got 4, 5, 6 streets that everybody drives down every day, and that's the impression they get in Mount Holly. So I need to know, I can rent to problem people immediately. I could have all my properties rented tomorrow, if that's what you guys want. This town is restricting me. I left that pink house empty for 3 years. 3 years I left it empty. I ate that for 3 years trying to find a good tenant. Well, they finally moved. I'm not gonna wait 3 more years. I can go the other route and just rent, it's down in the bad neighborhood anyway. You want me to put,
Jeff, you live in this town,
I know that, and I've got a stake here. But I'm like, do you sell, or do you fix it up? Is the town gonna get better? Or do you just get rid of your property and let the landlords take it and do whatever they want to do with
We
it?
hear you.
That's the way I feel.
I'm
And
kinda
I'm at a
bummed
crossroads.
that- bummed
My
to
wife
see
will
your
move in a
back
heartbeat.
doors,
I've been the holdout. So if I don't see improvement, I don't know what to do. So I don't have to put up with it.
We are actively
Well,
working.
we can all get our own little community, we'll all take, and then be our enforcer. We're taking you with us. But I'm more than happy, I'm happy with what's going on now. But I've already put 20 years of labor into fighting code enforcement. I've had the code enforcement official cited by the other code enforcement official for all his violations on his own home. So I've been through all the crap, and I've had all the tickets and all the aggravation, and here I am now, 20 years, 30 years later, and I'm still upset. And I'm not mad about getting the notice, but I'm looking all around me, and it's depressing. It is freaking depressing. And I'm done.
All right, thanks, Jeff. We're working on it, Jeff. Okay. Anyone else in that row? No one else in that row. Back row. Come on.
Carolyn Youngbean, 197 Cardinal Lane. Jeff, I would like for you to bring 100 people. I come here every week, and now I'm starting to write down how many people are coming out. We do live here. I'm a taxpayer. I care about my property. I spend a lot of money on a house in Laura Village because I care. I'm out there pulling weeds. I keep my lawn cut. I try to fix my patio. I added a new deck. I can't even sit on it because Acme has that odor from the compactor. But if I